Hi, I'm Benjamin Dada, coming to you from cold but sunny Joburg in South Africa. Today, it's all about a bank that started small but is steadily becoming the world's most respected African bank, Access Bank. So what do you think about the synergy between fintechs and banks?
So in the South African market, I think there's different views. I think fintechs, certainly from our view, fintechs are a really important part of the story about how customers get serviced. I think there's a role to play for both of them, and we feel quite strongly that banking is, and particularly payments, has got an increasingly strong utility flavor to it, and fintechs will often bring the customer experience, and so partnering is really important. The concept of open banking and of welcoming fintechs in, I think, is somewhat unusual in South Africa. There's a strongly protectionist flavor to the way our market is run, but as a bank we certainly feel differently. We feel like enabling fintechs and enabling competition across these payment streams is not necessarily a bad thing, and the bank has always got a role to play in doing the background work, the boring stuff that needs to happen to make the transaction trustworthy and to make it compliant and work according to the rules. A really good example is that in 2012 this bank was the bank that was the banking partner in the build out of what became Time Bank.
Right.
So Time Bank was originally one of our alliance banking partners before they became a bank, and it was a partnership between a very strong fintech in the form of Time and MTN as a commercial partner that needed a service offered to their customers, I suppose is the best way you can put it. And so we built out that partnership with them, and over time that emerged and grew to become a really strong offering that was bought by Commonwealth Bank of Australia, and the story has taken off from there to what is now Time Bank South Africa. So that welcoming of fintechs and that enabling them in a practical way, I'm not talking about things like fintech investment funds, that's an important part too, but this is more actually enabling them, bringing them into the payment system, into the banking system, helping them become compliant and practiced and able to run their products correctly, we see as critical to the market. SA's got a really good fintech space, a booming fintech space, but they need banks to partner with them to make it happen, particularly in our regulatory framework.
Okay, so if you were to categorize the components of the financial services ecosystem in SA, who are the players you would identify?
So, I mean, there's obviously banks, and I think banks perform a central role. Okay. And then alongside banks is the regulatory side of it, which is the Prudential Authority, the South African Reserve Bank, and multiple other regulators. There's the Financial Services Board, there's the Payments Association. All of that plays a role. Payments providers and fintechs play a huge role in kind of enabling this stuff into markets, and the various players sitting in the various segments around that. So you're talking about whether you're doing acquiring or traditional payments or stores of value, those all play a role. Obviously insurances and other types of financial services are strongly in the market as well. So all of those are very mature pieces. And then very much kind of consumer-led brands are playing an increasingly big role in financial services. So what you're starting to see is consumer-led brands stepping out of their traditional space and offering payment services or offering banking services in partnership with a bank, in partnership with those various parts of the ecosystem, but they're taking the customer-facing side of the equation on. Yeah.
So, would you say the government does more than regulate, right? Because I know about like the fund.
Yes.
Right? So, what's government's role in all of this?
Yeah. So I think we've got a fairly strong and active participation. So there's things like the Intergovernmental Working Group on Fintechs. Okay. There's the SARB, the Reserve Bank, has got specifically a fintech unit that is not just about talking regulation, but it's about enabling. There's projects that have been run using distributed ledgers to help us do national settlement. They've run that out of the Reserve Bank, which is which is amazingly innovative.
Yeah.
But there's also funding that's happening. So through places like the Industrial Development Corporation, the Small Business Development Fund, government is funding the build-up of these small businesses as a key part of it. The president has got a working group on the fourth industrial revolution, and there's a real strong fintech flavor to some of those conversations as well. So definitely more involved than simply regulating, and taking a bit of a leading role in it as well.
Okay, so if you were to advise someone, right, maybe an investor from outside South Africa that is looking to, play in the South African market, what's the one thing they need to consider before coming into the market?
So I think particularly in the fintech space, the SA market is really strongly regulated. Our regulations are rich, I suppose is the best way to put it. There's a compliance burden that goes with investing. And I think the key thing here is that as much as fintech is about technology, that technology has to work within the rules of the game to make sense. And even if it changes the rules of the game, like a Bitcoin does, it still ends up in the rules of the game in some form or another.
Yes.
So being conscious about how the technology is applied in the regulation. And then if I was an investor, I'd also be saying, is this strictly a South African setup, or is this something that can be translated elsewhere? Because the rules differ in every economy. Every jurisdiction has got their own flavor. Some of the basics are the same, but each one has to be different. And so because of that, as an investor, you'd want to be really aware of the fact that your investment should be something that can translate cross-border. And we've got some really good success stories in SA around that.
Okay. So my final question will be, when you think about the technology for the bank, right, has it moved from just maintaining systems? Are there more emerging technologies, more futuristic technologies that the bank is looking to bring on board to enable its operations?
Yeah, so I mean, both as a market and for us specifically as a bank, the answer is yes, it's moving. For us as a bank, we've traditionally been a business bank where technology was important, but not the critical enabler.
Yes.
It was an important part of it. Business banking is a relationship-driven business more than anything. So it was far more about the interpersonal relationship, and technology had to take the pain away. It was a hygiene factor. If you wanted to make a payment and transact, you really didn't want to have to talk to a banker. You wanted to do that on an app or on your laptop. But if you wanted to invest in 100 million rands worth of property, you want a strong professional who's going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Consumer banking is slightly different. I think the heart of the conversation is digital, and so we're definitely having to move really quickly to catch up to the competition. The SA market is really strong in terms of technology and banking technology particularly. Fortunately, Access Bank itself is strong, so we're able to, instead of having to build from scratch, we're able to adopt a lot of technology and bring it in. We have a lot of learnings ourselves from our alliance banking partnerships. We've understood a lot of these interactions, so we can add richness to what the group is already bringing to us. And to do that, we're having to catch up, and it is very much driven around mobile. It's very much driven around the answer needs to be in your hand, it needs to be instant, and that ranges not just from the payments, but very much around how do you initiate your banking relationship. For most customers, changing banks has been hard work because it's a pain point. Good technology means you should be able to do that in less than 5 minutes, sitting in the comfort of your own home, and we're going to bring that in our offering.
Nice.
But in the SA banking world, that's seen as a hygiene factor. All the banks offer that. The banks have moved very quickly from a really messy legacy of complex systems and heavy kind of infrastructure and mainframe-driven stuff that was legacy, and it sat there and it was hard to figure out. And they've put a lot of effort in to digitize and to move ahead of the curve. And now South African banks frequently win most innovative bank in the world. They frequently win technology awards, and that's because of the work that's been done. So we've got a lot of catching up to do.
All right. Thank you so much, Darryl.
Thank you.
There's a short game I want to play with you.
Sure.
Are you down for it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'll call out 3 words.
Yep.
Each of those words, you make 2 separate words from it. Do you get?
Great, got it.
Okay, so access.
Access to more.
Okay, banking.
Banking partnerships.
Technology.
Enabling life through technology.
Finance.
Financing innovation.
And Bitcoin.
Challenging banking through Bitcoin. That's more than 2 words. Sorry.
That's all right. Thank you so much. I know the game was a little bit off for you, right?
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to everything Access South Africa is doing, especially when I compare it with other markets like West Africa. So thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Be in touch.
Thank you very much.
All right.
It was great being here.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Dada, and this is the Big Tech Show. As the sun comes down on our first day in Joburg, I had an interesting conversation with the CEO of Access Bank South Africa. Darryl spoke about Access Bank commitment to banking, tech, and innovation on the continent. But that's not all about our South African exploration, as I've still got lined up an exclusive interview with the CEO of Luno. Keep watching the Big Tech Show. Behind me is Soccer City, where the World Cup 2010 was held. I'm sightseeing in Soweto as I get ready for my next big tech interview with the Luno General Manager for Africa, Marius Reitz. Wow, this space is breathtaking. I love it here. Welcome to Luno. So why do you think there's a lot of pushback on cryptocurrency, especially from the government?
It's a completely new left field concept. Currently, the way in which people transfer money and use money, there's typically a central point, whether it's a bank or central bank, and they act as the middleman to affect that transfer of funds. For example, when it comes to remittances, sometimes you have more than 2. You've got 3 intermediaries exchanging currencies to another currency on the road to its end destination. So now with crypto, we have a digital peer-to-peer money, which is a completely different concept. And regulators have to protect consumers in some way. So we have to acknowledge that, and that's very important. And they have to fit cryptocurrency into existing regulations for most part, and that's also why it's taking longer for them to come to the fore and implement regulations for these markets. We've seen some countries, some states in the US, some countries like Malaysia, for example, that have regulated cryptocurrencies, and so they've got a very, very clear way in which they're doing that, which I think is very positive through the Securities Commission. But other countries still lag because it's a fairly complex thing to try and fit into existing regulations. So I think that there's pushback. I think a couple of years ago we were at a point of zero tolerance, and I think we've moved beyond that, where regulators and banks admit that maybe there is a future, and maybe cryptocurrencies can play a very important role in the future of money. So they admit that, and they're trying to find ways in which it can become integrated into the existing financial system. And
that makes a lot of sense. We've seen governments like Nigerian government also tout having a digital currency. How similar, how different is that from cryptocurrency that guys like Luno puts forward?
I think at its core, I think it's an acknowledgement from central banks that consumer needs have changed over the last couple of years and decades. Consumers want things faster, they want things cheaper, and they want things customized to their personal needs, and money is no different, right? So there's this massive consumer demand for frictionless money, easier payments, safer payments, cheaper payments. So central banks, I think, have acknowledged and they've come to the realization that the current system that we currently use was built for the non-digital age in some way. Apart from fintech, which sometimes make the user experience a bit better, they make the product look a bit prettier and it's nice on the eye. But the underlying problem still exists, right? And that's the one of intermediaries. Slowing the speed of transactions, intermediaries taking their cut of fees, for example, and therefore, to some respect, excluding a lot of people from the financial system because of that. So, I think we're in the midst of another change, which is very exciting. Only this time, it's happening right in front of our eyes. Where in the past, we're reading about it in history books, where we went from barter in physical objects to cash, and from cash to to bank cards and now the digital fiat system we use. So I think it's a very exciting time that we're in. And we'll see how it plays out.
Okay, that's fair, because sometimes anti-money laundering and all these regulations make people or governments scared because they can't have that oversight they would have had if it was fiat, right? Yeah. But to move to one of your key markets, right, Nigeria, and that's the question everybody's asking, right? The government, banned crypto, right? And I know Luno has like 3 million users, right? So what stance are you taking, right, in light of that ban, and how are you approaching the situation?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate, but it's not unique to Nigeria.
Okay.
It's not unique to Luno. It's a problem that we've experienced across many markets, and not only in Africa, in other regions as well. Companies, other international, global crypto companies, they have to deal with bank account closures. They have to deal with orders like instructions like this on a daily or weekly basis. So we see the situation in Nigeria play out in a very similar way.
Okay.
We think that in order for the market in Nigeria to grow, you obviously need buy-in from regulators, because we saw it's very easy for a central bank to write a directive, issue it to all the commercial banks, and basically cut off your life supply. So I think our priority in the market at this point is our customers.
Okay.
And it might not seem that way because there's repeated asks for peer-to-peer platform, which is valid, because people became used to peer-to-peer platforms in the market. I think for us at this point, we need to ensure that when we put something forward to our clients in Nigeria, that is something, you mentioned 3 million customers, that's scalable, a product that is safe, a product that will be easy to use for 3 million customers, right?
Yeah.
So we are definitely assessing a couple of options. We're in advanced discussions with partners in the market to make it possible for Nigerians to resume activity. Yeah. But one of the unintended consequences, I think, in Nigeria at this point is, by issuing that directive, the central bank did not really think that they're going to have 3 million Nigerian customers with money stuck on Luno that they're not able to access. So we've got many customers with Naira on Luno, and because banks can't process payments, they can't process withdrawals, those clients, millions of dollars, can't access their Naira. Some of these customers have to pay school fees, they have to pay, support their families, but they can't access the funds because Luno's bank accounts can't process payments as per normal, right?
Yeah.
So it's very difficult.
I think that's enough information about cryptocurrency. Let's zoom out to a more tech startup-y conversation, right? There's a problem of talent immigration from Africa, right? And for a global company like Luno, right, you're hiring people in Nigeria. How are you protecting, or how are you staying competitive such that a Stripe or another company in America doesn't offer more money, more perks, and whisk away your talents?
Yeah, so that's always a challenge for a tech and for a fast-growing tech company in emerging markets. I think, fortunately, in South Africa in particular, I think the crypto industry and crypto companies punch above their weight compared to global peers. So in South Africa, we have 3 or 4 big credible cryptocurrency platforms. We have other, supporting cryptocurrency services. We've got a very, very strong financial services sector as well that obviously links in. So we have lots of talent in South Africa. And I think the exciting part for potential future employees is the industry we're working in. So whether you're looking at this from an accounting perspective, whether you look at crypto from a legal perspective, whether you look at it from a marketing perspective, it's something new. Yeah. So at Luno, we try and really create a bigger picture. So when you work on a task, the impact that task will have on the bigger picture and on the customer, which is ultimately our top priority. Yeah. You get buy-in from people that way. So you work, and your work will have an impact on the end consumer. Whereas at other businesses, perhaps it's not always the same. You work in silos, perhaps. Yeah. You improve an internal process that would not necessarily translate into a positive outcome for the customer. So I think it's a combination of people doing groundbreaking work. They've got an opportunity to do things differently, and impacting the customer. And for crypto, that's very exciting because we're sitting on a continent where We have a young population. We've got a growing population, right? So it's a very, very exciting opportunity for mass market adoption. People getting access to the internet for the first time. People getting access to mobile phones that's spreading rapidly, right? So the potential to build network effects, right, is immense. So we're very excited about that.
Okay, and what markets do you see currently that would be ripe for crypto, say, in the next 1 to 2 years on African continent?
So if you look at it from Africa perspective, obviously South Africa, Nigeria got lots of adoption in these markets already. Other markets outside of these two countries, Ghana, countries like Kenya, where you have already a growing crypto community. You have good financial services, you have mobile money. So there's that level of familiarity with mobile payments already that some people see as a threat, but other people see as an opportunity for crypto. I definitely see it as an opportunity because you've got a young population that are already on their phones making mobile digital payments. And so I think those countries. Luno is also active in Uganda, by the way. Uganda and then also in Zambia. So there's two markets where you don't necessarily would say there's big crypto adoption, but it's part of Luno building the crypto markets across Africa. It's not going to build themselves. You need companies like Luno with early access to plow the expertise and the teams into these countries to create the markets. So we're currently active across 4 countries and hoping to add 2 or 3 more markets over the next 2 years or so.
Okay, I think that answers my question of, what was the next step or what are the future plans? Are there any other thing you would add to that apart from more expansion? So
if you look at the way and why people currently use banks and financial institutions, it's typically to store their money. It's to save and invest. It's to transact and also to lend and borrow. So those are the 4 core functions, reasons why people use financial institutions. We think that through crypto, people will be able to do the same. So they can use their crypto, they can lend their crypto to earn interest. They can use crypto to transact. They can store their crypto on cryptocurrency exchanges and platforms such as Luno. So people will use cryptocurrency platforms in the same way in which they currently use financial institutions such as banks. So we're building out our platform so that people can
do
use
all these
Luno
things
and access all of these things. And these are not niche things,
Yeah.
right? This is things, these are things that people have used, banks for many, many, many different years. But we're in the process of building a hybrid economy, where people use fiat currencies for specific reasons. People use cryptocurrencies for specific things. For example, let's say a migrant worker wanting to send money back home, because crypto offers them, a cheaper route and a faster route. So we're in this hybrid stage where most people still use banks. Some people use crypto only, very, very little, and then some people use both. And that's again, where we come in to make access to that hybrid economy a bit easier for people.
Okay, so we play a short game, right? I'll call a letter and you form a word out of it. Preferably the word should be related to tech, startups, and innovation. Good?
Yeah, you're putting me on the spot there.
Yeah. So F.
Let's say first mover advantage.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, Z.
No, I can't think of anything, to be honest.
A.
A/B testing.
Okay.
Yeah, So A/B test.
C.
C, customer. That's not. Yeah, that's a tech company's main. That's the reason for existence, right?
Yeah.
Customer.
And then M.
Money laundering.
Thank you so much, Marius.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. My name is Marius Reitz. I'm the General Manager for Africa at Luno, based in Johannesburg, and you are watching the Big Tech Show, hosted by Accelerate TV.
Did you know that SA is so big on crypto, you actually have Bitcoin ATMs that allow you to withdraw cash instantly? I think that's amazing. I spoke to the country manager of Luno Africa, Marius Reitz. For more exciting interviews, keep watching The Big Tech Show.